Hi there, and welcome to a little informative video, how discussion boards work. I'm your instructor, Joe Crowder. This is for our history class online. First, I want to tell you something about the dates that we have installed for your discussion boards. As you know, the work week begins on a Monday. So by Wednesday, you should have your first original post entered. Now, your original post is based on the reading, and then you are free to ask questions at that point. By Sunday, all your posts are due. That's your original post plus another original post, and all your response posts that are due. Now, the purpose of the discussion board is pretty simple. It's intellectual engagement. This is not the Jerry Springer show, for those that can remember that, or the Geraldo show, or talk radio where people scream at each other. This is where people intellectually engage one another in the materials that they are reading. It is a place to ask questions. It's part of the historical inquiry process, and we're going to go over how to ask questions properly in another document. It is a place to share, especially your research. So as you're reading, take some time to, if you're working on your paper or if you're working on your group project and you come across some awesome material, you're going to share that with the rest of the class. It's really a very smart thing to do. We're here to help each other, lift each other to understand history. What's the minimum? I know I get asked this question all the time, so I'm going to put it out here. Now, I'm going to state this right up front. Most of you will do more than the minimum. I've seen it, and it's good. We have an official limit of 40 students. Now, if I kept it to 40 students, that means each of you will be writing 2 original posts. That's from your textbook and from other primary sources and also other secondary sources. I forgot to put that in there. That's 80 posts total. That's a lot of posts to read. Do I want you to read everybody's original post? No, that would be too much reading. But I do want you to read and respond to at least 12 posts. And in addition to all of that, look for my post. Once in a while I'm going to throw a question in there, or I'll guide the class as a whole with a question. Or I'll see things going astray and I'll write something. Okay, so look for them from time to time. So let's talk about what makes a great original post. So your first post is going to raise a contextual question and provide specific evidence. Now, anybody can ask any question, but what we're looking for is a contextual question. And again, that's addressed in another document. So what is a contextual question? Really quick. It's a type of question that if you tried to answer it, it would take perhaps a book. That you could write a book off of that one particular question. I mean, you can say or ask very simple questions, but you can also ask very deep, penetrating questions that ask to look at ourselves and look at history at the same time. Let me give you an example of a good contextual question that provides specific evidence. So here it is. In chapter 23, Foner starts with the Freedom Train, a traveling exhibit of cherished American documents. People viewing and leaving the train were asked to rededicate themselves to American values by taking the Freedom Pledge and signing the Freedom Scroll. But then, on page 903, Congress creates the HUAC, House Un-American Activities Committee, attacking people's political views with little to no evidence. Does fear trump liberty? Does it today? Now this is a contextual question about the balance between fear and freedom. So I think you can see how these questions are a bit penetrating. Does fear trump liberty in America? Does it today? I mean, we can look at today and we can see that people really kind of use fear of Islam. We see Michelle Bachmann and a few other congressmen from the very far conservative right in Washington, D.C., charging that there are members in our federal government that have links to, ties to, or are members of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is going right back to the 1950s and the late 1940s, where the House Un-American Activities Committee created the fear of communism and attacked people asking whether or not they were communists. So this is a great question, and it's a pretty good, great original post. It provides specific evidence. What makes a mediocre original post? Well, the questions raised are kind of vague, or they're not contextual, and they provide less supporting evidence. So let's check this out. Foner starts with the Freedom Train in chapter 23, but then goes on to write about HUAC and blacklisting. What was Congress afraid of? So the question that's raised, what was Congress afraid of, is not in context with anything. See what I mean? It doesn't attach to you or to me or to a point in history. Which Congress? Today's Congress? Could we say that Congress was afraid of anything at any time? So it's a very vague question. There is some evidence, but it says chapter 23. That's all it says. So I'd have to find where it is in chapter 23. If you put page 903, then we know exactly where to go, and people could go to it and see what you're talking about. What makes a poor original post? Well, questions are barely raised, or not at all, and no evidence is given. So, for example, I wish we could have another Freedom Train. That would be cool. Maybe I'll write the president about it. I wonder who else I can contact to make this a reality. You didn't really raise a question, just kind of thinking out loud. It's not really a question at all. And there's no evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. I know we're working on chapter 23 maybe, but Freedom Train, it would help if they put down a page number or a chapter, right? Okay. So I also invite you to pause, rewind, watch it again to see how I set these up to give you good examples of great, mediocre, and poor. Now those are original posts, so let's talk about great response post. And a reply post will provide an answer, maybe, or a comment, or both, but it'll also give, again, specific evidence. So for example, I'm not sure which came first, the fear or politicians using fear to get elected. Now I found this article, The Selling of America, the Advertising Council and American Politics 1942 to 1960 in Business History Review. And it talks about the Advertising Council and a partnership with the Committee for Economic Development. So these business groups also promoted American values, just like the Freedom Train, and they all contrasted an us versus them mindset. So I guess fear was in the air. Now this is pretty good because, again, someone is thinking, they provided an answer and to the question, they provided some specific evidence. The answer to the question is, yeah, fear was in the air. The specific evidence is The Selling of America, the Advertising Council, and American Politics 1942 Business History Review. Now they didn't provide a date, but I'm sure if you typed in The Selling of America, the Advertising Council, and all that in JSTOR, the article would come up and you can find it. Pretty cool. This is a great response post. I love this response post. I would give this response post an A. So what about mediocre? Well, reply posts are vague. The answers are vague, or the comments are vague, and just generally lack specific evidence. So here's an example. Communism sucks, dude. See, right there, we don't have intellectual engagement. Right? We have really an emotional-based statement. They were taking over the world. We needed the defense industry to keep making bombs, which create a job. It says all of that in chapter 23 somewhere. Kind of vague. Less specific than the other one, right? Mediocre. A great poor post. What? That's supposed to be what makes a poor response post. Excuse me. I'll fix that someday. What makes a poor post is that your reply does not answer or help with comments, lacks specific evidence. So Congress fears nothing. We're Americans, we rule. I need some evidence for that, and it doesn't help with anything. So a little overview here. First, your original posts are based on mandatory readings. That's your textbook, primary documents, other secondary sources or documents that I might say you need to read for that week. And so you're going to create an original post based on those three things. You have to have one original post posted by the end of Wednesday, so that Thursday morning people can start looking at them and have some time to respond, right? But you need 2 of them overall. You need to have 12 response posts by Sunday. That means reading 12 other people and responding to them. Now you can read 15, 20, all 40 if you want, or more, but you only have to respond officially to 12. And you have to do that by Sunday. Again and again, I'm going to ask you to use specific evidence, both in asking questions and in answering and making comments to them. One other thing. Try and keep the questions contextual. Questions that are founded in our textbooks, in our readings, but questions that tie to us, questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no, questions that make us think, questions that not only provide context but are asking for context, questions that require someone to write a book to answer. That's a contextual question. Share what you find when you're reading and you come across something that's really cool. Let us know about it, that you're excited about it. When you're answering someone's post, try to answer them with stuff that might help them answer that question, as we did in the previous example. Someone went out to JSTOR and looked, and then came back and said, here's this. Or maybe you have a video that you have about the Cold War that you liked, a documentary or something. Share it. Share all these wonderful tools and things that you find. Help one another, I guess is what I'm saying. If you can do those 3 things, we're going to have a wonderful class. Okay? That's it for me, Joe Crowder. We'll catch you soon.